And really quick, I just want to welcome you. I am Pastor Justin. I'm the youth pastor here at Bethel Christian Fellowship. And it kind of worked out that this is a youth-led Sunday and a youth pastor-led Sunday. And so we just want to welcome you and thank you for joining us at this house of prayer for all nations. And we are going to get started this morning talking about the Unshakable Kingdom. We're going to be preaching out of Hebrews. And I'm very excited to be here with you this morning, so thank you for joining us. First, I just wanted to, let me see, we're going to test this out. It's on. Oh, yeah. Sweet. So most of you, I think I know and know me. This is my family. This is Ezra and Michelle, and he's wearing a cool cape. I should have shown this picture when they were still in here so he could be excited. Because he likes attention. But this is us. I can't remember what park it is in Wisconsin, but there's like a state park right across the border that's really nice. It's got cool waterfalls. And that's us at the zoo. They were giving away free superhero capes for something. And so, I just wanted to throw that out there for those of you who don't know who I am or haven't met my family before. So we have been going through the book of Mark here at Bethel Christian Fellowship, very slowly and methodically in great detail. And last week we covered the crucifixion, and because today is Palm Sunday, we're going to rewind a little bit, previously in that last week of Jesus' life, and we're going to talk about Palm Sunday a little bit to get started this morning. So, at the start of Palm Sunday, Jesus is entering Jerusalem. So he's coming towards the city. He sends his followers to go get a donkey in fulfillment of prophecy. And so they've got the crowds cheering. They're laying the palm branches like we had this morning in front of him on the road. They're laying down cloaks for him. And they're yelling out, "Hosanna, blessing to the King who comes in the name of the Lord. Blessings to the Son of David." And while this is happening, the Pharisees, they kind of wag their finger at Jesus like, "Hey, your followers should not be saying these things. They need to calm down." And Jesus kind of rebuffs them, and he says, if these people, my followers, don't cry out, the rocks are going to start singing and shouting in their place because all of creation is celebrating the Messiah. And so it's this triumphant, joyous, exciting moment in the story of Jesus. It's kind of like there's been this building of pressure and tension as Jesus is going about his ministry. Everyone's like, okay, yeah, but when are you going to go claim the messiahship? When are you going to reveal yourself and come down as the prophesied Messiah that's going to save us from the Romans and free us from our oppression, right? When are you going to establish Jerusalem as the center of world politics where everyone starts streaming to worship the one God, Yahweh? When are you going to do all that stuff? And so as he's coming to Jerusalem, all of this pressure is starting to build to this climactic moment where it's happening, right? He's coming, he's going to reveal himself as the Messiah, and the people are just overjoyed, and it's this beautiful moment. And it's followed by something really odd. Luke chapter 19, this is the same part of the story. As he came closer to Jerusalem and saw the city ahead, he began to weep. He said, "How I wish today that you of all people would understand the way to peace. But now it's too late, and peace is hidden from your eyes. Before long, your enemies will build ramparts against your walls. They'll encircle you, close in on you from every side. They'll crush you to the ground and your children with you. Your enemies will not leave a single stone in place because you did not recognize it when God visited you." And that's a strange thing to say if you're the Messiah coming to free your people from the oppression of the Romans, right? It's I hope none of the people who were with him heard him say that, right? Because that's kind of like, Jesus, what? You're here to stop that from happening, right? You're here to prevent that thing from happening. That's not going to happen. We're going to be a world power. The nations are going to stream here to worship Yahweh. The temple of the Lord isn't going to be damaged or destroyed. It's going to be elevated. And so it's this strange moment as Jesus is approaching. And so we get these two different responses to the future of Jerusalem. On one hand, you've got joy because all of these people believe that the Messiah has arrived to establish his eternal kingdom, free them from a Roman oppression, right? And elevating them to this place of if everyone's coming to your city to worship Yahweh, right? Like, hey, we're the important ones. We've got the influence. We're the new Romans, right? We're like the neo-Romans. And on the other hand, you have Jesus weeping because he knows that he isn't the Messiah that they want him to be. They reject him for not doing more to confront the Romans. They reject him because he's like, no, I'm not going to free you from the physical oppression that you're under right now. I'm not going to overthrow the Roman government for like a couple, 200 years. And he doesn't elevate them into this tangible position of power. And so it's this weird juxtaposition that we have as Jesus is coming in on Palm Sunday. Because on one hand, yes, he is the Messiah, and yes, he is here to free his people from their oppression, but it's different than what they're anticipating. It's not the physical manifestation of freedom that they want. You know, they're still getting taxed. They're still under like the powers that be above them. And so because they reject Jesus, God's people will choose power and rebellion. And so 40 years after Jesus' death, roughly, this is all approximate, but in 66 AD, the high priest Annas established, this is actually the same guy that ordered Stephen, the martyr, to be stoned to death. So this is like the same guy. The high priest Annas established a regional government running the Romans out of Jerusalem temporarily. So they kind of conquered the region a little bit. But in response, the Romans came back in force, besieging the city, and they brutally conquered it in 70 AD. All right, and so the temple was destroyed, as Pastor Steve talked about, really in ways that like I was learning stuff. It was really good. He talked about how they destroyed the temple, and you can still see evidence of the destruction to this day when you go to the city of Jerusalem and you go to the Temple Mount. And so the people of Jerusalem were either enslaved, killed, displaced, many of them fleeing. There was a diaspora of people from the region. And so we have this chaotic, like destructive moment where like they were getting by, they were surviving, there was hope that they were going to be established as the greatest nation on earth. And then within 40 years, they're destroyed. And Jesus weeping actually happens in another part of the story as well. So earlier, before he's coming to Jerusalem, in Luke 13, he says, Jerusalem, O Jerusalem, the city that kills the prophets and stones God's messengers. How often have I wanted to gather your children together as a hen protects her chicks beneath her wings, but you wouldn't let me. And now look, your house is abandoned, and you will never see me again until you say, blessings on the one who comes in the name of the Lord. So we get this second look at Jesus weeping over the city. Is like you see his heart to redeem them from the oppression that they're creating for themselves. Like they choose this rebellion, they choose this way of power and control again and again and again, and it isn't what they wanted. It wasn't, whoops, we are going through that quick. My daily alarm is going off right now. Let me just silence that. Could you get me back to that? I hit a button and it messed it up. We're on Jesus Weeps again in Luke. Yeah, it's a reminder to shut off your phones. It is very true. And so Jesus wept as he came to Jerusalem because he was offering them a kingdom that is unshakable. He's offering them something that couldn't be destroyed by a Roman siege or Roman taxes. Jesus weeps because the Father weeps at the rejection of the children that he loves. And we see him expressing this like the way that a mother wants to protect her chicks beneath her wings. Like, I want the best for you. I want this goodness for you, but you keep rejecting my ways and choosing to do what seems great in your own eyes, to do what seems right in your own eyes. And so my question for you is, like, raise your hand if you have ever gone through a period of instability, and that could be personal, like national, economic. Have any of you lived through a global pandemic? All right, yes. So we have been shaken at different parts in our lives. And maybe not to the extent that our cities were conquered or destroyed. Maybe in different ways we've been shaken or undergone just this something tragic, something that the world was one way, and then it all of a sudden in a moment it becomes something totally different. And our understanding is like, man, I didn't expect the world to work in this way. And so we could be shaken in our families. We could be shaken in our church communities. We could be shaken in our friend groups, where like I thought you were someone and I find out that you're a different person. In our online communities, in our nations, in our economies, as don't look at your 401ks right now. Things are rough right now economically. And so all of these things become shakeable. And so instability, suffering, and trauma, they can cause us to go on the hunt for something that is safe and unshakable. If I could just get this thing, things will be okay. And this manifests in different ways because we're all hurt and shaken in different ways. And so sometimes it becomes like, man, if I could just find a good person to be in a relationship with, like if I could just find a good woman, things are going to be okay. Like I'll feel okay. If I could just get enough money to get out of debt and be financially stable, life is going to be easy sailing after that. It's going to be great. I just need this thing. If I could just get rid of this addiction that I have, things are going to be great. Life is going to be manageable. I'll be okay. If I could just have this thing, and so we go chasing for something that will keep us stable, that will keep us from being shaken, right? Like, if this just happens, if this political party gets in, things are going to be okay. If this thing happens, things are going to be okay. If I can just get this job or do this or get this vehicle, life is going to be okay. And we chase after these things, and after a while, we start to figure out, like, oh, wait a minute, that didn't fix everything. Like, that didn't give me what I was looking for. And so maybe things have been good for you, and it's hard to think of a time of your life. I don't think this is true, but I just want to be clear. Like, maybe there's a time in you feel like things are okay. I'm not too worried. I'm unshakable. I have bad news. Hardship is coming. And that's the end of the sermon. We're going to call the worship team up. No, that is not the end of the sermon. So what does it mean to have an unshakable faith when the world around us is so unstable? And I don't know if you guys are as addicted to the news as I am, but it seems like things are more unstable than I realized they were going to be when I planned this sermon. This was not a sermon I wrote this week. This is a sermon that I actually wrote originally 5 years ago. I preached for the first time at the church that I first worked at when I was a pastor. And it was in the middle of the pandemic the first time I preached this sermon. And at the time, I remember my wife was 7 months pregnant. This was during the pandemic, and so there was a lot of, like, unknowns, like, how is it, will COVID hurt her pregnancy? Like, if she gets sick, what's going to happen to our child who's still developing and still growing? Like, what's going to happen to Michelle if she gets sick during this time? And I remember our 401k, I recently rewatched the first sermon I gave on this topic, and our 401k had dropped 30% at that point in the pandemic. And so, like, all of these things that I might want to place my trust in, right? Like, everything's going to be great. We're young, we're healthy. Like, it was being shaken, and I was in this weird mental place. This is, if my wife was in this room, she would be laughing right now. Because during this time, I became like a mild prepper. I don't know if you guys know what preppers are, but like, I was like, there's going to be food shortages because of this. I need to go out and get a bunch of dried goods that will last a couple of years. That way, if there's food shortages, my son will have food, right? Like, because she's pregnant, and I need to make sure everything's going to be stable for her. I can't, like, allow my child to go hungry. And so I was, like, feeling all of this anxiety, and everything ended up being fine. It was unreasonable. But I was in this place of, like, how do I find something stable that can't be shaken? What can I do to make sure our circumstances aren't messed up too much by what's happening in the world around us? How do I hedge my bets the right way, right? And so in John 16, Jesus says, I have told you all this so that you may have peace in me. Here on earth you will have many trials and sorrows. But take heart, because I have overcome the world. And I think we could summarize today's sermon with that verse. But we're going to go a little deeper into it because in Hebrews 12, we get this beautiful discussion about what God is actually offering us. The type of a kingdom that he's offering us in place of the unstable kingdoms that we live in. So in Hebrews 12, and this is written, we think, before the temple was destroyed. So I just want to put that out there. So before the temple in Jerusalem was destroyed, this book that was written primarily to Jewish people kind of prophetically digs into this idea of a kingdom that's unshakable. So in verse 26, when God spoke from Mount Sinai, his voice shook the earth. But now he makes another promise. Once again, I will shake not only the earth, but the heavens also. This means that all of creation will be shaken and removed so that only unshakable things will remain. Since we are receiving a kingdom that is unshakable, let us be thankful and please God by worshiping him with holy fear and awe. For our God is a devouring fire. And so God is promising that everything shakeable is going to be shaken, so that only unshakable things will remain. And so this idea okay, yeah, if I could just have stability, economically, things are going to be okay. The promise is it's going to shake, all right? Your financial stability will not last. Or if it's I could just have this going on in my relationship, if my partner would just do this, or if I could just have a partner, things are going to be okay. That will be shaken. Maybe if I just get this job, or I go to this college, or I get this scholarship, things will be okay. My life is going to be solid. We've got a lot of young people that are thinking about the next stage of their lives. And what do I need to do to make sure things go smoothly in my future? You don't need to stress about it because it's going to be shaken no matter what you do. And the benefit of this promise isn't just that the shakeable things will be shaken, is that we are being offered something that is unshakable. And that is the good news. In the midst of all of the oh yeah, things are going to be bad, you're being offered something that can't be shaken. Should I place my hope in the future? This is rhetorical at this point. I think you guys are on board. Should I place my hope for the future in the stock market? My romantic partner, a pastor or church leader? We keep messing up, man. We're sinners in need of grace. Don't put your hope in Pastor Steve. Don't put your hope in me. We're bad. Okay? We need Jesus. Should we put our hope in a community or a friend group? I mean, you can enjoy that, right? You can enjoy your community and friend group, but your hope can't rest in it because it's shakeable. A political party or figure, my culture, my nation, entertainment, my job, all are shakeable. And I think we're going to feel some more shaking in the weeks to come. If we want to develop a faith that cannot be shaken, we need to develop it and ground it into something that is unshakable. So this is a little earlier in Hebrews. This is more of what we're talking about. Man, let me just tell you something. We're not sure who wrote this. We don't know who wrote this book. They are brilliant. I wish that I could just meet this person and pick their brain a little bit, because Hebrews is one of the most dense, complex books in the New Testament. It is so cool. So he's speaking to primarily a Jewish audience. You have not come to a physical mountain like Mount Sinai, a place of flaming fire, darkness, gloom, and whirlwind, as the Israelites did at Mount Sinai. For they heard an awesome trumpet blast and a voice so terrible, they begged God to stop speaking. They staggered back under his command. If an animal even touches the mountain, it must be stoned to death. Moses himself was so frightened at the sight, he said, I am terrified and trembling. No, you have come to Mount Zion, the city of the living God, the heavenly Jerusalem, to countless thousands of angels in joyful gathering. You have come to the assembly of God's firstborn children, whose names are written in heaven. You've come to God himself, who is the judge over all things. You have come to the spirits of the righteous ones in heaven who have been made perfect, your ancestors who faithfully following Yahweh and welcomed into his kingdom. You have come to Jesus, the one who mediates the new covenant between God and people, and to the sprinkled blood which speaks of forgiveness instead of crying out for vengeance like the blood of Abel. When God spoke from Mount Sinai, his voice shook the earth. And this is the verse that we read earlier. Once again, I will not only shake the earth, but the heavens. This means that all of creation will be shaken and removed so that only unshakable things will remain. Since we are receiving a kingdom that is unshakable, let us be thankful and please God by worshiping him with holy fear and awe. What is the unshakable thing that the author of Hebrews is pointing to? This is eloquent. I didn't even include all of it because it's long. What is he pointing to? Not Mount Sinai, where God made his first covenant, but Mount Zion, the city of Jerusalem, and not the physical city of Jerusalem, but the heavenly Jerusalem, this kingdom that is now and is not yet. This thing that God has partially revealed to us and promises to continue to reveal to us until it is fully fulfilled. That he's inviting us to say, and this is so hard. When I was growing up, I heard messages like this, and I want a physical place. I want something I can point to and be like, this is the kingdom. Yes, this thing, just go 100%, go all in. And I think I was like, okay, the church is the kingdom, right? Like this building, this community is the kingdom. And yes and no, it's not. It is and it's not, right? Because this is a shakeable thing. This building isn't going to last forever. We're all going to die. This community is going to be changed and shaken and perhaps moved or what, I don't know. And so it has the potential to be God's kingdom, yes. When we participate, and we're going to get into this later. But like it is and it isn't. Like it's hard to, it's abstract. It's this heavenly kingdom that is here and isn't here yet. Is God the stock market, my romantic partner, pastor, leader, church? Like God's kingdom can happen in these places, okay? God's kingdom can happen in our economics. He gave rules to his people about how to properly go about their dealings in trade. God's kingdom can exist in your relationship with your romantic partner. It can exist in your relationship with your pastor, your church leaders, your communities, your friend groups. It can exist in a political party. It can exist in your culture, your nation, your entertainment, your job, your church. But it is not these things. According to the author of Hebrews, these unshakable things are the kingdom. And these are more practical than I usually get. So if you take notes, these are the things to write down. Hebrews 12:22, you have not come to Mount Zion, to the city of the living God. You've come to the heavenly Jerusalem and to countless thousands of angels in a joyful gathering. And we have this image of what angels do when they gather in heaven. Coming out of Revelation chapter 4. They gather around the throne of Yahweh and they cry out, holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty. And they worship him for his goodness. You've come to this assembly of God's firstborn children. So you've gathered together with other people who are united in their seeking of Yahweh. You've come to God himself, who is the judge over all things. You've come to the spirits of the righteous ones who've now been made perfect. You've come to Jesus, the one who mediates the new covenant between God and people into the sprinkled blood, which speaks of forgiveness. And so God's kingdom is anywhere that our worship of him imitates the worship that is happening in heaven. When we surrender the way the angels and the saints do in Revelation chapter 4, and we bow down saying, you are greater, you are better, you are so much better than we can even comprehend. Holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty. We are participating in the kingdom when we worship him. We're entering into this place, and his kingdom dwells in that moment. And we can worship without entering in the kingdom of heaven. We can sing a song, right? We can do that without actually entering the kingdom. But when our hearts are taking the right posture, we can exist in God's kingdom with him. Second, God's people gather together so they can draw closer to him. When we are coming together for the intent of building his kingdom, God's kingdom is with us in those times. When we gather together wanting to be drawn closer to God, wanting to just talk about his goodness, to discuss it, his kingdom is being established among us. And so church can very, very easily be this place where God's kingdom is. God's kingdom is anywhere that people are drawing closer to the person of Jesus. Whenever we stand and behold him and saying, Jesus, I want you more, his kingdom is growing and being built in that place. Whenever people are imitating Jesus' loving sacrifice through not just forgiveness, but through seeking the reconciliation, like when people are suffering and struggling and we seek to restore them, God's kingdom is happening in that place. And when we've been wronged and we go after people seeking to be restored in our relationships with them, we are imitating God himself. That is the reason he sent Jesus. His enemies rebelled against him and destroyed his world. And he himself left heaven, came down to be among them, was subjected to their evil, and died in order that they might be redeemed. And so whenever we imitate God in his willingness to put himself on the line, the kingdom of heaven is happening. And Isaiah, I'm not preaching if I'm not quoting from one of the prophets in the Old Testament. So Isaiah 65 says, look, I'm creating a new heavens and a new earth, and no one will even think about the old ones anymore. Be glad, rejoice forever in my creation, and look, I will create Jerusalem as a place of happiness, and people will be a source of joy. I will rejoice over Jerusalem and delight in my people, and the sound of weeping and crying will be heard in it no more. No longer will babies die when only a few days old. No longer will adults die before they have lived a full life. No longer will people be considered old at 100. Only the cursed will die that young. In those days, people will live in the houses that they built and eat the fruit of their own vineyards. Raise your hand if you are economically independent. I shouldn't actually do that. Don't raise your hand, actually. We don't want everyone looking at you and judging you. But I don't think very many of us are economically independent where the food we eat is the food that we grew, and the houses we live in are the homes we built. And we don't need to go work at another person's business in order to survive. We're not beholden to some landlord. We're not beholden. This is a view of God's kingdom in our economics. God's kingdom in our health and our well-being. Unlike the past, invaders will not take their houses and confiscate their vineyards. For my people will live as long as trees. We won't need to be worried about our own safety. You won't work in vain. You won't put your energy and time into something and then have it disappear before your eyes. You won't have to try hard, working yourself hard, injuring yourself in order to get by. There are people blessed by the Lord, and their children too will be blessed. I will answer them before they even call to me. While they're still talking about their needs, I'll go ahead. This is an image of the unshakable kingdom. This already and not yet. This thing that God has started but hasn't finished the work of. This thing that we are being offered. The wolf and the lamb will feed together. The lion will eat hay like a cow. The snakes will eat dust. In those days, no one will be hurt or destroyed on my holy mountain. I, the Lord, have spoken. I think I'm missing a verse somewhere. I might have cut it off too early. There's also a verse in here. It might be in Joel, actually, of melting down their swords into plowshares. Have you guys heard this before? This comes up a couple times in the Old Testament, in the books of the prophets. He says, we're going to take all of your weapons of war, or self-defense, and we're going to make them unnecessary so that they would be better used as farming equipment. And that image, I wish it would be burned in every single one of our souls. When we look at who God is, what he desires, is a kingdom where we don't even need weapons anymore, so we repurpose them for a greater human flourishing. And so my question to you this morning is, what are the shakable things that you've been placing too much trust in? And it's different for all of us. If you're anything like me, I get stuck in observing the shaking. Every morning I wake up and see what has shaken today. What shook while I was sleeping last night? And then how do I adjust to make sure that I won't be shaken today? And for some of us, that means we know it's going to shake, so we don't need to sit there torturing ourselves as it shakes. But not only letting go of these things that are going to be shaken and not holding on to them so tightly, just accepting them with open hands, saying, God has given me a gift. I can be grateful for it while I have it, but it might not last forever. It's probably going to be shaken at some point. Not just that, but with also gripping firmly onto this kingdom that cannot be shaken. Gripping firmly onto this thing that can't be taken away. And so we're going to just, I'm going to invite the worship team back up as we're going to close this sermon. I want you to just sit and think about these things. How do you need to grasp onto his unshakable kingdom more fully? Father, would you answer those questions for us right now in this moment? Would you reveal to us the way that we've been holding on to things that aren't capable of giving us what you're offering? Would you whisper to us about the goodness of your kingdom? Would you speak to us? And would we find rest and peace and solace in the work that you've already done? Knowing that you're not stopping, that you're continuing to move, that you're continuing to breathe. Father, I just pray that you would speak individually to people, but also that you would speak corporately, that you'd give us encouragement for one another this morning, that we'd be willing to support each other, that we'd be willing to join you in building your kingdom through worship, that we join you in building your kingdom through the love that we're expressing and the desire for forgiveness that we have for other people, for the gathering that we have with the people in our community, coming together, trying to draw closer to you and seeking you. Father, would your kingdom come and your will be done. Amen. We're going to invite you to stand. I just want to pray a blessing over you as we finish this morning. May you go and chase after the unshakable kingdom that he's offering us. Would it become your life's greatest treasure? Would it become the thing that you chase after, that you value more than any other thing? That you're willing to buy a field in search of this treasure? Sell your possessions, chase after it. Father, would you just enable your people? Would you give us the gift of entering into your presence and your kingdom on a daily basis? Don't make us wait for eternity, Father. Would we be there now? In your name, amen.